Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC ABC 5 Taporia versus Emmett. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, wherever on TikTok, wherever there's social media, there is the Stats and Stacks podcast. As always, a quick overview. Both dogs hit, which was awesome to see last week. However, we did have a lock miss yet again with Muslim Salikov. I told myself I'm never locking heavyweights or women's MMA. I did both recently. It did not work out. I refuse to do it again. And we're going to add old men to the list. They're just too unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. We had an old man fight with Matt Brown and Court McGee. We locked Court McGee earlier this year, and he lost. We had Dalby versus Muslim, 38 versus 39, old man fight. I just can't figure out the old men. I can't figure out heavyweights, and I can't figure out women's MMA. So we're going to cross those out. And again, we will never lock anything over minus 300. At that point, it's just too easy to call the win. So at that juncture, we're just looking to get back on track. At least the dogs bailed us out. And then we had the weird no contest with the Ronnie Lawrence fight. That was weird. We might have got bailed out on that one, to be honest with you. But whatever. We're on the bigger and better things. Wasn't the worst night ever with all those dogs hitting, but it wasn't a positive one like we've been used to all year. So we're looking to turn things around with a great fight card, man. I like this card a lot. Again, not a lot of name value, but if you're a diehard, you're going to absolutely love this card. All 14 fights still intact somehow. We're going to have a live crowd in Jacksonville. So, I mean, it's my birthday weekend, so what could be better than winning big cash this weekend, baby? But at the end of the day, we always make jokes and say every UFC has like if it had a title like they used to back in the day, this one would be UFC ABC 5 recency bias, because there's a lot of line flips left and right on this card. Line movement is insane. So buckle up, get ready, and just kind of hop on the train and kind of read the room, baby. So let's jump into the first fight of the night, which is one where, again, the favorite just got absolutely steamed. We have Cody Brundage minus 195 now, up against Cedric Dumas at plus 165. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is plus 135. Under 1.5 at minus 155. Honestly, this is not the way I want to start the night, but let's get Dumas out the way, or as a lot of people would call him, dumbass. He has okay striking. His jiu-jitsu, it's not that good. It's a little overrated. People are saying he has good jiu-jitsu because he got a choke on the Contender Series. I mean, yes, it was a nice guillotine over a nice opponent. That doesn't mean he has really great jiu-jitsu. It does not mean that at all. His record's very suspect. He's fought 1-1, 1-2, 1-7, 1-0. He's basically a fraud. At the end of the day, he's gonna have a 7-inch reach advantage, which is nice for him. But his cardio's questionable. He's a little chinny, to be honest with you. And his striking's just okay. The main thing with him, and his takedown defense looked real questionable against Josh Friend. But the main thing you're going to hear about is how Dumas is just honestly a piece of shit. There's a lot of just legal issues he's having. I have no idea why the UFC signed this man. Just like a lot of domestic abuse and pulling guns out and pointing it at children. Like, there's a lot of stuff. He's from Florida, kind of did the whole like Jorge Masvidal fight in the streets first ordeal. I mean, yes, he does have decent striking. He has a huge reach advantage in most of his fights because of his frame. He has that John Jones, Izzy Adesanya, just real lanky but muscly build. So he has the physical attributes. It's just, can he get his shit together? Can he stop terrorizing his neighborhood and focus on being an MMA fighter? The good news with him is that we did call Josh Friend by sub. That is still the biggest hit of the year. It was like plus 1,200 from by submission, and it hit. And I like betting against Dumbass, not only because of his personal character, but because he's kind of easy to read, to be honest with you. But on the flip side, we have someone that's not easy to read at all, at Cody Brundage. He has really good wrestling, a D1 pedigree. His jiu-jitsu is not terrible. I love the camp he's at with Factory X Muay Thai. At the end of the day, I mean, his striking's improving, but it's still only okay. It's not that good. He has a tendency to slow down in fights from time to time, so that's another thing you have to watch his gas tank. I don't know if Dumbass's gas tank is any good, but I know Cody's is real shaky. And he's real chinny. I know he's not showing a ton of knockouts. His last loss was via submission to the black belt hunter, but he got rocked in that fight. In the fight before that, he did get KO'd against Mikael Oli and Chase Truck. Before that, Trishan Gore rocked him before he knocked out Trishan Gore. Dalcha Luliambuka rocked him before he went and slapped on a guillotine in a fight he was absolutely getting killed in. He got knocked out in his contender series fight against William Knight. Like, this guy has a history of being chinny. So if he runs into anyone with decent power, is a pretty good striker, he does have a tendency to have some issues. And that's all Dumbass has, to be honest with you. So I don't know. It should be wrestler versus striker. Take the wrestler, easy money. But the line, man, someone that has notoriously bad cardio and someone that has a notoriously bad chin going to get someone with a 7-inch reach advantage, and they know all they want to do is get wrestled. Like, if you think Shadrix doesn't know that he's going to come out here and try to double leg him all day, it's just common sense. So I don't want to bet Dumas. I really, really don't. And the pick is definitely going to be Cody. I will always go wrestler over striker, but just something in my gut is screaming. Dumas was a huge favorite against Josh Friend. He got exposed. People realized he was a fraud, and here's the recency bias. Here he is as a plus 165 dog now. He has all the tools to beat Cody Brundage. I don't want to do it. The pick is Cody. If I'm betting it, it's probably Dumas. Because the under is juiced to minus 155. If you want to go that route, you're kind of covering yourself on both ends. Cody can definitely submit him when he takes him down, or Dumas could definitely KO him early. So the pick is going to be Cody. The bet should be Dumas, but I can't physically root for this guy. So if anything, I'm eating the minus 155 chalk at the 1.5 and betting it that way. All right. Next fight of the night, another one where it's just recency bias, man. We have Tatsura Taira as a minus 265 favorite going up against Cledson Rodriguez at plus 225. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 115. Under 2.5 minus 145. The reason I say it's recency bias is because of Cledson Rodriguez, and Vegas has no idea what to do with this guy. He came into the UFC against CJ Vergara as a huge favorite. He went out there and lost a pretty questionable split decision. There was some home cooking going on with CJ in Phoenix. But then he came back and he answered the bell and he destroyed Shannon Ross in his home country of Australia. And it was a lot closer odds than usual. And now you have Clemson as a plus 225 dog, and the opening line he was like plus 400. It was insane. But at the end of the day, he was someone that used to train with the Nogueira brothers. That's who kind of trained him. So he naturally has good jiu-jitsu. He has really good striking. His cardio, people are going to say, is questionable. I think it was the first UFC fight just gas out. Like, it was just the nerves, the adrenaline, and he just had an adrenaline dump. And I still think he won that fight. I think he got screwed over in that split decision. I had money on CJ, and I'm telling you, I think he got screwed over in that decision. He can get stuck on his back when you take him down, though. I'm not a fan of that. He does not have an urgency to get up. He will play jiu-jitsu, and I don't like that. But he is 27 years old, and again, that 25 to 29 range, you just see huge levels of improvement every fight. Just like with the older men, they can just kind of fall off at some point with no warning. The opposite for these young kids, man. They come in and they look kind of rough, real rough around the edges, and they come out after like a year and they look like world beaters. Like, there's something about that age range where they hit their prime and go absolutely ape shit. So we don't know what version of Rodriguez we're getting, but what I can tell you is that he switched camps and he's no longer with Nogueira. He's with Chucky O. He trains with Charles Oliveira now. And honestly, the way he likes to fight, I think that is the perfect place to be training. So I do like that move a lot for this kid. On the flip side, although the UFC still believes, the UFC and Vegas still believe in Rodriguez, it's just this Tyra kid is the truth. I think he's very, very good. He's the real deal. One, they love pushing people from overseas, and we have Tyra from Japan here. His wrestling's okay. His striking's not good. He's just extremely explosive and athletic. He himself is very, very young. He's only 23 years old, so he's someone that could also improve. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, which is super nice. It's his ground game, though. This kid's ground game, once he takes you down, you do not get up. He is undefeated 13-0 for a reason. He's just an athletic specimen with an unreal jiu-jitsu game. Like it's very, very good. He slaps on Aljo level, slap on that body triangle, and you're going nowhere. And as aforementioned, Rodriguez does like to play jiu-jitsu on his back, so it does concern me. I'm definitely going to pick Tyra to win here, but you're giving me plus 225 on a prospect in Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez is good. I think Tyra is probably a little better, but I think who is better striking? Rodriguez. Who is better jiu-jitsu? Tyra. Who is better wrestling? Dude, I would say Tyra, but it's by a slim margin. And one of these guys is plus 225. So this is a sheer money play. You have to know the difference between picking and betting. If gun to my head, I am picking Tyra to win this fight. If I want to throw money on this fight, I'm just going to take a shot. It's dog or pass. So the pick is going to be Tyra. The bet's going to be Rodriguez. Or honestly, you can kind of bet the over 2.5. I don't know if Tyra finishes Rodriguez. Again, Rodriguez is pretty good on the ground. The over is plus money, and that's a sneaky good play. Honestly, I'm just now looking at it. To be honest, it went right over my head. Forget taking the dog shot. Let's just take this over 2.5. I don't mind that. So the pick's going to be Tyra. The bet's going to be over 2.5. Let's switch it up, baby. Change on the job. Learn on the job. Next fight of the night. This one's sketchy. We got Jamal Emmers, minus 210, going up against Jack Jenkins, plus 180. Over 2.5 is minus 185. Under 2.5, plus 150. Who is the recency bias affectee this fight? It is none other than Jamal Emmers. I think Jamal Emmers is a very, very, very good UFC fighter. I think he could potentially be top 5 in the weight class. That's how much I believe in Jamal Emmers. He has really good striking. He's very lanky. He's a 6-inch reach advantage in this matchup. His wrestling is good, offensive and defensive. He has 100% takedown defense, and he'll take you down if you want. His jiu-jitsu is good. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. He can handle himself on the ground. He literally has zero weakness in his game. He has good cardio. The only problem with Jamal Emmers is his ring IQ. He will do some shit to piss you off every single fight. I mean, you're looking at his losses here. The fight against Giga Chikadze, yes, he lost a split decision. It was very close. A lot of people think it should have went to Emmers. The thing is, he dominated the 3rd round because he went out there and took down Giga twice. Shot 0 takedowns round 1 and 2. Giga is a world-class kickboxer with 0 ground game and 0 wrestling. Why on earth did you strike with him for 10 minutes and then decide, you know what? I think I'm going to take you down now and dominate. I don't know what his mental lapse was. I don't understand why the guy that wrestled D1 did not shoot a takedown on a kickboxer. It'll drive you insane. Fight against Pat Sabatini. He dropped Pat Sabatini like a log. Pat had no idea where he was. Instead of letting him up or going for a ground and pound, what does Jamal Emmers do? Decides to go for a toe hold. Well, Pat Sabatini lives on the ground. He woke up and he tore his fucking leg off. Like, he literally snapped his leg, and he did not fight for over a year, nursing a leg injury. Why are you playing footsie with someone who only has jiu-jitsu and is basically unconscious because you just rocked them? Let them up or finish with ground and pound. What? I don't know what goes through his head. I love all the physical attributes about this kid. I think he is amazing. Top 5 potential. But he just has some mental lapse in there, and you can't trust him. And the last thing on here that really, really concerns me, leg kicks. His last fight against that 23-0 kid, he literally checked 0 leg kicks. I did not like that whatsoever. That's also a little bit of a mental lapse, just deciding not to check it all, because Jack Jenkins is going to need to know how to check a leg kick. Jack Jenkins is someone who's gone out and broke people's legs, more than one person's legs, throwing leg kicks. That is his bread and butter. That is what he's known for. So Jamal, you better, I would trust that he knows to check the leg kick of the guy that's breaking people's legs But again, Jamal Emmers has the worst fight IQ I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Jenkins has good striking overall. His ground game has improved a ton. His wrestling has improved a ton, and he's been using it his last few fights. He took down Don Chanis. He took down his kid in contender series, Linares, and dominated on the ground. He has good cardio. He's a fun guy. I like everything about Jack Jenkins. I just he's been using his wrestling a lot. He's one of these guys that are predominantly strikers and then have found wrestling and fallen in love with wrestling. He's not going to be able to take down Jamal Emmers. He's going to be forced to strike, and Jamal Emmers is a good striker with a 6-inch reach advantage. Jack Jenkins should lose this fight. This fight is lined appropriately, but my thoughts are because he's not going to be able to fucking reach Jamal Emmers, what's he going to do? He's going to kick him, and he's going to kick the shit out of his legs. Is Jamal Emmers going to check a leg kick? This is what it comes down to, because I can see a leg kick TKO coming here, to be honest with you. So at that juncture, Jamal Emmers is the pick. Jamal Emmers should win this fight, but if Jamal Emmers pulls a Jamal Emmers, I am not surprised if Jack Jenkins wins this fight, or even if he doesn't TKO him, if he injures him along the way with those leg kicks and he's just a sitting duck, then Jack Jenkins can go off. And this fight is in front of a crowd, and I feel like Jamal is not going to wrestle like he should. When you look at Jack Jenkins' record, he has 2 losses, and they're both by submission. Should the black belt and D1 wrestler take down Jack Jenkins and submit him? Absolutely. Will he fight? Will he draw to the crowd and try to strike with this guy? Probably. Is he going to check any leg kicks? Probably not. So the pick is Emmers. I'm going to bet Jack Jenkins at plus 180. He has really, really good fight IQ, and he's pretty decent, and he's Australian. I don't like betting against Australians. Jamal Emmers, better fighter. No, I'm not going to bet him. It's that sad to say. Pick is Emmers. Bet is Jenkins. Next fight of the night. More I don't know if it's more recency bias. I don't know what's going on with Trevor Peek, to be honest with you. I'll be honest. I love Trevor Peek. He's minus 110. Jose El Chefe Mariscal is also minus 110. It's a straight pick 'em now, which it probably should be. Over 1.5 is plus 135. Plus money. You heard that right. Under 1.5 is minus 165. Let's just jump into Trevor Peek because he's 8-0. People fell in love with Nate the Train and his Tennessee country, just wild style. Meet Nate the Train 2.0. Only no wrestling and no jujitsu. this is young Nate the Train, baby, and Trevor Peek. He's undefeated. He's only 28 years old. You ask him what his background is, he's going to tell you street fighting. You're going to tell you stories about how his first fight, he thought he was just going to a street fight and it was an MMA fight, and he fell in love with it. His striking's good. It's pretty good. Kind of. It's very creative. He throws like standing hammer fist. He throws some wild stuff that is not technical at all. He always starts technical. He gets punched in the face, and then he just goes into street fight mode. It happens a lot because he's extremely hittable. Don't get me wrong, he has a ton of volume, and he throws everything with intent to kill. Like, everything is out there to put your lights out. He doesn't put 80% on anything. Everything is 110% every single strike he throws. He has a very, very good get-up game, but he's rocking a 42% takedown defense. He's not hard to take down. He's hard to hold down. He's very, very just scrappy. That's literally the only word to describe Trevor Peek. I love watching his fights because you know it's going to be absolute pandemonium. They need to get him and Nate the Train in there, Tennessee on Tennessee. I know they're different weight classes. They're only 10 pounds apart. Let's see how we figure this out. But he has no technique whatsoever. He's someone that's very, very scary to bet on just because he's hittable. He's raw. He can't stuff a takedown. He just depends on getting up and throwing heavies the whole time. What I will tell you is that I did bet him in the contender series. I had him as a live dog and posted it, and he liked my tweet. So if you like my tweet, I'm going to support you till the end of time. So let's go, Trevor Peek. I don't like people that can only strike, but I'm going to rock with Trevor Peek here. On the flip side, we have Chepe Mariscal. Chepe's probably the better fighter, to be honest with you. He's a good striker. He's a good wrestler. He's pretty decent on the ground. He's only 30 years old. He is taking this fight on short notice. So definitely take a look at that. He doesn't gas out, but he does slow down in all of his fights. But he's rocking a really good schedule. Like, no one has ever heard of this guy, but he's good. Like, he's a D1 wrestler. He fights at a good camp, Elevation Fight Camp. And yes, you see 13-6. He has never fought in the UFC, but look at the guys he lost to. Sean Soriano was in the UFC. Steve Garcia, currently in the UFC. Joe Anderson Brito, currently in the UFC. Bryce Mitchell, currently in the UFC. Frank, I have no idea who that is. And Gregor Gillespie, currently in the UFC. So he only has 6 losses, and 5 of them are to people in the UFC. And they're not bad people. Like, Sean Soriano's probably the worst. Steve Garcia, that was a questionable finish. He was still wide awake. They called it a knockout. It was kind of early, to be honest with you. But Steve Garcia's not terrible. Joanderson Brito's good. Gregor Gillespie, really good. Bryce Mitchell, really good. And he has a no contest against Carl Deaton, who's also in the UFC. So he has, you ought to also look at his wins. He beat Yusuf Zalal, who was formerly in the UFC, who they caught way too soon. He's so good. And Pat Sabatini, who we just talked about, who just looked good in his last fight, who just tapped out Jamal Emmers 2 fights ago, went out there and got a decision over him. So not only has he fought UFC level competition, he's beat them. He's good, man. He is a good team, and he's good everywhere around. He is the better fighter, head and shoulders better than Trevor Peek. The issue I have with Chepe is the fact that Sean Soriano beat him by decision. That the Steve Garcia fight, he was winning until he got into a brawl, and then the fight ended with Steve Garcia by KO. Again, a little early, but it's still Steve Garcia KO because of a brawl. Joe Anderson Brito, they got into a brawl right away, and Joe Anderson knocked him out, and he's out for like 5 minutes cold. Bryce Mitchell out-grappled him, and Gregor Gillespie went out there and knocked him out. Like, this guy, you can get him into a brawl mode, and he doesn't succeed there. He is a technician. He's a very, very, very good MMA fighter. He's not a street fighter. And Trevor Peek, every single one of his fights turned into a street fight, and he brawls. So if Chepe went out there and decided to wrestle, he's got to find a way to keep Peek down. If he's going to stand up and strike, I am petrified Peek is going to go up there and throw standing hammer fists and put him out. So although I promise you Chepe is the better MMA fighter, in this fight in particular, especially in his debut in front of a crowd, I think you can talk him into brawling, and that's where Peek exceeds. So the pick is going to be Peek. The bet is going to be Peek, even though Mariscal's the better fighter. It makes no sense, but I'm telling you, Peek is going to go. He's going to goad him into a brawl, and he's going to take his head off. Peek by KO. All right, next fight of the night. For the love of God, help my boy out. We got Zalga Zamagulov minus 190 going up against Joshua Van at plus 160. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 180. Under 2.5 at plus 145. Bro, we got to start with Zalgas. Poor Zalgas. He's showing a 1-5 record in the UFC. He should truly probably be like 3-2. He should probably be 3-2, to be honest with you. He lost to Manel Kopp fair and square. He lost to Amir Albazi fair and square. Both of those guys are top 10 guys in the weight class. His loss to Charles Johnson, I had money on Charles Johnson. It was a split decision that I thought Zalgas got robbed. Jeff Molina, I had money on Jeff Molina. It was a split decision, and I think Zalgas got robbed. His first fight, Julian Paiva, I had money on Zalgas, actually. Unanimous decision, and that was, everyone is still talking about how big of a robbery that one was. So those are 3 decisions he lost that switches that record to 4-2 instead of 1-5, and that's a major difference there. This guy's good. He's experienced. He has good striking. He has good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. There is nowhere where he's bad. He's a little hittable on the feet. That's not good. But he's pretty durable. He's only been knocked out once in his career, and that was to Kopp, and no shame there. Manel hits like an absolute truck. Probably the hardest puncher in the weight class, to be honest with you. Otherwise, yeah, he's just a little bit of a generalist. He's not young, but he's not super old. He's 34. So he's just about to leave his prime. He has this sick bowl cut. Problem with him is that he keeps getting fights canceled. He's had his last 3 fights canceled, the poor guy. My problem is, how many times has he made weight? That's a lot on your body to continually cut weight. And then continually, like, at least there was a little bit of time in between. Last week, they kind of caught a little early that his fight was going to get canceled, so hopefully he didn't go too hard into his weight cut. Because you see it all the time with people that continually cut weight because their fights got canceled and then they just go out there and they don't perform the same. So I'm hoping he's fine. He is a very, very good fighter. He's going to get cut. He's going to get his pink slip if he loses this fight. But the UFC knows he should be 4-2. That's why he's 1-5 and still here and getting fights. They know that he's been screwed. That's the only reason he's still here. And a sick bowl cut. On the flip side, Joshua Van, watching the fight tape, I was just ready to bet Zalgas right away, back the truck up. But Joshua Van impressed me. He's actually kind of cool. I like Joshua Van. He has pretty decent striking. He has good counters. He loves the counter strike, and he's very good at it. And his jiu-jitsu is okay. It looks good on the ground, but the problem with him is that he's 21 years old. Yeah, he's a kid. And yeah, you're going to say, yeah, he's good. He has things like calf slicers on his record. Well, the guy hit with the calf slicer was 2-1. The guy before that they knocked out was 0-2, 2-1, 0-0, 2-4, 0-0. Like, he's not fighting the best level of competition, which isn't his fault. He's 21 years old. So I think the kid is a prodigy. I think he's going to be very good. I just don't know about giving him a 34-year-old Russian killer in his debut fight on short notice. He's taking this fight on a week's notice. So I think that's a bit much. He's definitely a kid I'm going to have my eye on, especially in the next few years here. But I think this is just biting off a little more than he can chew. Granted, he's fighting Zalgas, and all you have to do is make it to a decision with him, and you'll get the nod. But he might get finished, because Joshua, the one thing he really struggles with is takedown defense. And Zalgas will probably want to strike, but he also wants to keep his job, so he might just go down there and take him down. He doesn't have Jamal Emmer's fight IQ. So Zalgas will take him down at some point. And I don't see Van submitting him. So the pick's going to be Zalgas. The bet's going to be Zalgas. I would want to say by decision to juice it up, but he might catch him in a submission. And I don't know which one. I'm teetering back and forth. You have minus 190 on the favorite. Not bad odds. I'm just taking that. So the pick is Zalgas. The bet is Zalgas. All right. Next fight of the night, we can kind of speed through. People are going back and forth in regards to who's winning this fight. I can say I don't really care. Neither one of them will ever win a title. So we have Tabitha Ricci minus 130 against Jillian Robertson at plus 110. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 205. Under 2.5 at plus 165. Let's start with the favorite in Tabitha Ricci, Baby Shark. She's someone I want to fade. I don't think she's good. I think she's very overrated. Her jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. Her wrestling's just okay. It's not that good. She's not that old. She's 28. Her striking is getting better. I will give it to her. At first, it was bad, but it is getting better and better each fight. But it's still not that great. Her cardio, sneaky bad. Like, she does slow down in all of her fights. We saw it in the Maria Oliveira fight. We saw her slow down and the Polyana Viana fight. And again, neither one of those girls can wrestle to save their lives, and her wrestling saved her in those fights. So she's really kind of one-dimensional. She has a very good ground game. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, she's phenomenal on the ground. Her wrestling's just okay. She was just fighting girls that have zero takedown defense. Jessica Bonet, all of these girls have sub 30% takedown defense. So you would think she's a crazy wrestler. She's not. She's really not. She's just okay at it. She's more of a judo girl, to be honest with you. On the flip side, we had Jillian Robinson, who's basically the same thing. Really, really, really good jiu-jitsu. Wrestling, not really that good. She'll get an occasional takedown. She's more of a traditional single or double leg, but she shoots really, really far away with no setups. Like, she has good jiu-jitsu. Her striking, non-existent. So her cardio's okay. Her cardio's better than Tabitha Ricci's. I'll give you that. And Tabitha Ricci's training partner is Pierre Rodriguez, who Jillian Robertson just beat. Jillian Robertson's coming down from flyweight. She just did it in her last fight against the aforementioned Rodriguez and looked good. People make jokes. Shout out to the Die Hard MMA podcast. He said he can tell Jillian Robinson if you are stronger. If Jillian Robertson is stronger than you and can bully you, she'll win. There's a good hammer, bad nail. Tabitha Ricci, I don't know if Jill is stronger. I know Jill is bigger. I don't know if she's stronger. The Baby Shark's a little tank, bro. So the wrestling edge, I'm going to give to Ricci by ever so slightly. Neither one can wrestle that well. but I'll give Ricci the edge, especially because Robertson. Here's the main thing: as someone that used to wrestle for years and years and years of their lives, I'm telling you right now, the shorter and stockier you are, the harder it is to shoot a single or a double. Robertson only shoots singles and doubles. She's a traditional folk style wrestler. She doesn't really do any upper body throws. She doesn't really know any judo. She doesn't know any Greco-Roman. Like she only shoots single and doubles. And she's gonna be the much taller girl. Tabitha's gonna see it coming a mile away. Tabitha, if she wants to take her down, she's generally a judo girl, so she usually wants to go upper body and hit you with some throws. But I've seen her hit doubles, and I've seen her hit a few singles. So if she wants to hit a power double on you, the little tank that she is, she can definitely do it to Jillian, who also has some 30% takedown defense. So I think this is going to be just Tabitha Ricci takedown and survive on the ground. So and she did that with Jessica Panay. Jessica Panay is the same thing as Jill. Zero striking, good jujitsu, no wrestling. Exact same thing. What did Tabitha do? She took her down. I thought that was a stupid decision, but she ended up ultimately getting an armbar and getting a finish, which is nice. But she is not scared to go to the ground with anyone. She trains with Mackenzie Dern all the time as well. So that's good. That's where she feels comfortable. That's where she's going to take it, and that's where I don't think she submits Robertson. So I like the over here. But if anything, that's a little heavy with minus 205. Let's just take Ricci. So the pick is Ricci, the bet is Ricci. Next up, we have an interesting fight, what I've kind of gone back and forth on. We have Mateusz Rebecki at minus 150 going up against Loic Radzhabov at plus 130. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 185. Under 2.5 at plus 150. Let's start with Mateusz. I think he's okay, but I think he was a little overhyped, and people are realizing it. And you know what he's getting? He's getting the recency bias, and he's a lesser favorite than you would think. He loves the pressure and move forward. All he does is pressure you and move forward. His striking is not that good, but he's a little tank and he just throws heavies the entire time. Nothing but wild hooks and power strikes. He ultimately wants to take you down and grapple. That's where he feels comfortable. His jiu-jitsu is pretty good. His wrestling is very good. And he's not technical on the feet whatsoever. He's not good on the feet, but he hits hard and he's always moving forward. He does have a propensity to slow down in his fights from time to time, so you do have to watch his cardio a little, but he has a good record. Little 17-1. He's fought some decent guys, but no one too crazy. And the recency bias kicking in is this fight against Nick Fiore. Nick Fiore, he was a huge favorite and kind of squeaked out a decision there. Nick gave him everything he could handle, and Nick has been since cut from the promotion. Just got destroyed and dismantled by Chase Hooper, and Mateusz couldn't do that to him. So that's not the greatest look. It did not age well. So now all of a sudden, instead of being a minus 300, minus 250 favorite like he's been in his last few fights, he's sitting here minus 150. Not as much recency bias hitting. On the flip side, he's fighting Loic, who is essentially the exact same thing, has the same exact fighting style. He loves the pressure, won't step backwards. Striking, not that good, but he swings heavies. He's pretty durable, just like Mateusz. Really good wrestling, wants to take you down, has a tendency to slow down in his fights as well. Never gasses, but slows. He kind of does like the zombie cardio ordeal where he's death gassed at the end of the second round, but he doesn't stop swinging even though he has zero energy left. It's mind over matter. He's gonna have a 2-inch reach advantage here, which is nice. But these guys are basically the same thing. I will say Loic is a little more hittable, but Loic I think has fought the better guys. He fought over in PFL. He fought Nathan Schultz. He fought Magomedov. He fought Alex Martinez. Like, I actually know these people. They're not terrible. The PFL has some decent fighters. He's not bad. He's not great, but he's good. He's someone that I bet on in his last fight on short notice against Esteban, and he went out there and got me paid. Like, I like Loic a lot, and I think he can do it again. I think these are the exact same fighters, only one of them has a little more experience and a reach advantage. So give me that guy at plus money. So the pick is going to be Loic, and the bet is going to be Loic straight up. All right, next fight of the night is another one that just confuses me. We have Rude Boy Randy Brown at minus 245 going up against Wellington Turman at plus 205. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 105. Under 2.5 minus 135. Let's start with Rude Boy. Rude Boy is good striking. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's gonna have a 6-inch reach advantage here. His wrestling's all right, 71% takedown defense. His cardio's pretty good. He is a little chinny, though. You do have to watch his chin. He got knocked out by Vicente Luque. He got knocked out by Nico Price. He's been beaten by Bilal Muhammad, uh, Michael Graves. And all of those are good losses. Like, those aren't bad. He got knocked out by Jack Della in his last fight. So is he a little chinny? He got rocked by Francisco Trinaldo. He got rocked by Chaos Williams. He's another guy. He got rocked by Jared Gordon. He's another one where even though they're getting these wins, they have to he has to go through the fire to do it quite often. But he's good. He's good everywhere. He's basically just a generalist, and like with that Izzy John Jones frame, like he's good. He's very very good. He's just a little chinny. That's really all it is. And his takedown defense at 70%, it's okay. If he fights a good wrestler, he's in trouble. Is he fighting a good wrestler or a power puncher here in Wellington Turman? I don't know, because Wellington Turman hasn't fought at 170 in quite some time, in years, in like 5 or 6 years. He's had a few fights at 170, so he's been there before. He's known for his jiu-jitsu. His jiu-jitsu is top notch. Do I think Randy Brown can hold his own on the ground with him? Yes. Is Wellington better on the ground? Yeah. And he's 26 years old, so he's at that age where he can continually get better. So you do have to be weary. His striking's getting better. We saw it look a lot better in his last matchup against Andre Petrowski. We saw him utilize it in the Sam Alvey fight. I know it shows a split decision with Sam Alvey, but Turman lost 2 points in that fight. So it actually was not a split. It's just he kept getting points deducted. He's chinny himself, though. So these guys definitely could knock each other out. He's also a little hittable, which isn't good. And his striking, again, is only okay. It really comes down to his wrestling. If he can take down Randy Brown, he's going to win this fight. If he can't take down Randy Brown, he's going to lose this fight. Can he take down Randy Brown? Yeah. Can he do it for the entire 15 minutes? I don't know. And I know when Randy Brown gets taken down, he's another one that plays jiu-jitsu. There is no urgency to get up. So if Wellington takes him down, he only needs to once in the round, and he's Gucci, man. But is he going to be able to do it? I sincerely have no fucking clue. The right thing to do is probably just dog or pass here. I was looking at that over at plus money, especially if, I don't know if Wellington's just going to tap him out. I could just see Randy surviving down there. But they're both chinny. So then I looked at the under, and neither one are really power punchers. So I don't know what to fucking do with this fight. I want no part of this fight. I hate this one. Anything, I'm going to pick Randy Brown. And he's fought the better guy, so I'm going to bet Randy Brown. But I'll tell you right now, I do not feel good about it. My gut is also telling me Turman might go out there. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna pick Randy Brown. I would bet Turman, but this is a sheer stay away. Don't bet this fight either. You can bet this next one though. Next fight of the night, Neil Magny minus 170 going up against the Fresh Prince Philip Rowe at plus 145. Over 2.5 minus 175. Under 2.5 at plus 140. All right, let's start with old man Neil. Now, again, I don't want to bet old fighters. And what I'm going to classify as old is anyone over the age of 37. How old is Neil Magny? 35. Made the cut. Bet him. Good striking. Good wrestling. Okay jiu-jitsu. Great cardio. Great strength of schedule. Man does it all. He's a generalist, and he likes to pressure up against the cage. The only thing I don't like about Neil Magny is his reactions. When he gets hit, he backs up and jogs all the way up and leans against the cage, and it just doesn't, it's not a good visual for the judges, so it kind of has split written all over it in most of his fights. But Elevation Fight Team is, again, it's another good camp. He's going to be training with Chepe, ironically enough. The kid's good everywhere. I think Neil Magny, he's definitely getting old. He's 35, but in fight years, he's probably 37, so you do have to watch it. But I honestly just don't think Phil Rowe's that guy. Philip Rowe's a little overrated, in my opinion. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. He does a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments. He's very good on the ground. And he trains at Fusion XL, which is a pretty good jiu-jitsu camp. His striking's good. He's tall and lanky. Rocks an 80-inch reach and uses it well. Here's the problem. He's never fought anyone that also has an 80-inch reach, which Neil Magny does. Both of these guys are tall, lanky black guys. That's exactly what they are. However, one of them have fought former and future champions. One of them have fought Orion Cosey and Jason Witt. So he just has 0 good wins. His best win on his record is Nico Price. He's fought people like Gabe Green, who just pressured him and he lost and he got dominated. So it's just not a good look. He also has a 52% takedown defense. So if Neal needs to take him down, he can. It's just Neal needs to stay safe. He has been tapped out a few times here now. Rose cardio's okay. He slows, but he doesn't generally gas out. He's a lot better going forward. When you back up the Fresh Prince, he doesn't fight well off his back foot. And Magny generally kind of goes a little forward. He's not like a whole Loic pressure where he does nothing with Michael Chandler and Justin Gaethje, where all they do is just pressure forward. That's not Magny's style, but he does go forward a little bit, and that's all he's gonna have to do against Philip Rowe. Magny's better everywhere outside of the ground, but I think he's good enough on the ground. So I think Magny should run away with this. So the pick is Neal, the bet is Neal Magny. Next fight of the night's a fun one, baby, and this is the recency bias fight of the week, baby. We have Brendan Allen minus 180 going up against Bruno Silva plus 155. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 150. Under 1.5 at plus 120. It's all because of Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen is good. I like Brendan Allen. He has really, really, really good jiu-jitsu. His striking's come a long way. It's very good. We first saw it on full display in the Puna Soriano fight. He looked really good on the feet, and it was basically all on the feet. His wrestling's okay. We saw him take down Andre Muniz in his last fight. He took down Kevin Holland. Like, he can get a takedown. His wrestling defense, his takedown defense is terrible. But his offense is not, it's not good. But he mixes it in well, and he'll sometimes get you down. On the feet, he's extremely hittable. That's a concern. The other concern is that he's extremely chinny. He got rocked by Muniz, and Muniz is a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Jacob Malkoun won that fight. I bet him by decision. I don't know how Brendan Allen got that decision. I have no idea. That was a robbery. Chris Curtis knocked him out. Justifiably so. Puna didn't, which is nice. Sean Strickland knocked him out. Sean Strickland, not a power puncher. Kyle Dawkins, not a power puncher, also rocked him. So I don't know, man. There are just some concerning things with Brendan Allen. He has all good losses. Trevin Giles, good. Eric Anders, good. Fluffy, good. Sean Strickland, good. Chris Curtis, good. He's only lost to really, really good competitors. Is Bruno Souza good? He's okay. He's not great. But everywhere that Allen struggles is basically where Silva's pretty decent. He's only rocking a 70% takedown defense, but he has a really good get-up game. At one point in his career, you take him down and you tap him out. That's how you beat Bruno Silva. But at this juncture of life, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt now. Does he use it often? No. He wants to go out there and knock you out. He has 23 wins, and all 23 wins are by knockout. Like, that's insane. The man has power, hits like a truck, probably the second or third hardest puncher in the weight class. 33 years old. He's no spring chicken. This is the finished product. But again, if you take him down, he does pop right back up. Unlike these other people, if you take him down, he has the Trevor Peak status where he will do anything in his power to stand back up. His cardio, I've seen it look good. I've seen it look bad, but I'm going to give him a pass against, in his loss against Gerald Meerschaert. He said that he was very, very sick going into the fight. Everyone told him to pull out, and he's like, no, I don't pull out of fights. I'm going to fight anyway. And his cardio looked terrible. And I believe him. He just didn't look the same from the start. Like, before the fight even started, he just looked off. And if you're telling me he was deathly ill, that just kind of, that makes sense. And here's the biggest thing here. He's extremely durable, and we're going to look at who he beat. He beat Brad Tavares. I know Brad Tavares isn't fighting this week, but I want you to look at something. He knocked out Brad Tavares. The other people that have beat Brad Tavares, Driscus Duplessis, who's in a number one contenders fight. Edmund Shabazian, who was basically, if he would have beat Derek Brunson in a number one contenders fight. Izzy Adesanya beat Brad Tavares, is the current champion. Robert Whitaker beat Brad Tavares, was a former champion. Tim Bosch, anomaly. Yoel Romero beat Brad Tavares, fought for a title. And then Aaron Simpson is an anomaly that's way, way, way back in his first ever loss. So Brant Tavares has officially lost, sorry, 8 fights. And 6 of those 8 people that he lost to were in number one contenders fights, champions, or fought for a title. So Bruno Souza beat him. So that means he's going to fight for a title soon. So easy money, baby. You got plus money on the power puncher against the guy that's chinny. This is just too easy. So the pick is going to be Bruno Souza. Sorry, Silva. The bet is going to be Bruno Silva. All right. Next fight of the night is another one that just is sketchy, man. I don't really know what to do with this one either. Let's pull this up here in full. Sorry, my screen started to go out on me a little. Okay, we got David Onama plus 190 going up against Gabriel Santos minus 225. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 100. Under 2.5 at minus 130. Let's go ahead and start with the man, the myth, the legend, David Onama, because why? He was a part of Glory MMA. Glory MMA obviously disbanded because James Krause might have been betting on fights. We don't know everything going on with that situation. It's still up in the air. Who knows? But David Onama was one of his main guys. David Onama came into the UFC on short notice and fought Mason Jones, who might have been a little exposed as of late, but is still a decent prospect. He fought him up a weight class on like 10 days notice and gave him a fight. Fight of the night was an extremely fun fight. He's a good striker, hits extremely hard, has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. His wrestling is okay. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup, which is nice. He has pretty good volume. He's a little hittable, but a lot of that is just skewed from the Nate Landwehr fight. The problem with Onama is that he has 45% takedown defense. I am not a fan of that. I know he has a decent get-up game, and by decent, I mean he pops up with urgency as well, at least for the first 2 rounds before he starts to succumb to just dying energy. But he 42% is a really low number. So if he fights anyone with any semblance of grappling, he's in a little bit of an issue. And he's fighting someone with good grappling in Gabriel Santos. Gabriel Santos, 26 years old, so he's kind of at that number where he's going to keep improving. But so is Onama. Onama's like 27, 28. Santos has good striking. He has really good jiu-jitsu. He has really good wrestling. He also he does. I don't know if he trains with Chuck E.O. He doesn't, but he fights exactly like him. He fights just like Oliveira. It's pretty funny. He himself is a little hittable, just like Onama is. I don't know. Uh, this recency bias is real this card because David Onama was always a minus 300 favorite over everyone. He went out there and got just embarrassed by Nate Landwehr. Now it's when he's plus 200. Gabriel Santos is a big dog against Lerone Murphy. Went out there and lost a pretty close split decision that I thought he won. And all of a sudden he's a minus 225 favorite. Like, this is too much recency bias for me. The one thing I will tell you is that Santos is good. I think Santos is really good. But don't sleep on Onama's power because Santos, although he only has one career loss and it was by split, he gets rocked a lot. And he's hittable. Very hittable on the feet. And he gets wobbled. He got wobbled in the Lerone Murphy fight. He got wobbled in the fight before that. He got wobbled in the Elvis Silva fight. Like, he gets wobbled all the fucking time. And one of these times he's gonna go out. Is it gonna be this time? Don't know. If I'm Santos, I take Onama's ass down and submit him. That's exactly what I would do, or ground and pound. He's very Santos is very good on the ground, and he has the ability to wrestle. He's a good wrestler. But we're in front of a crowd, and Santos can strike, and I think he's going to want to put on a show like he did his last time. And if he goes out there and strikes with the power puncher, you might be taking the wrong approach. So I'm actually going to take Onama, actually. The pick is going to be Santos. He's the better fighter. The bet's going to be Onama because I think Santos is going to have a low IQ moment in front of the crowd, and I think he's going to get caught. And Onama by knockout is like plus 450. Not enough juice. I'm probably just going to take him at plus 200. I might have a sprinkle. If I'm having a good night thus far, I'll put a sprinkle on Onama by KO. but I think he's going to catch him. I'm convinced that Onama's going to knock out Santos and shock the world. So the pick of Santos with the bet's going to be Onama, and Onama by KO if you want to get fancy. Speaking of fancy, next fight of the night, we have Amanda Hebos at minus 200 going up against Macy Barber at plus 170. Over 2.5 is minus 215. Under 2.5 at plus 175. Let's start with Amanda Hebos. Just like the previous fight, these are just the two girls that the MMA community think are hot duking it out with Jillian Robertson and Tabitha Ricci. Now we have Amanda Hebos and Macy Barber. Amanda Hebos is a good jiu-jitsu practitioner. Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, was not scared to go down to the ground with Mackenzie Dern, so that's how you know she's good on the ground. Her wrestling's okay. A lot of judo. She's very judo based too. So she throws that disgusting head and arm throw. I hate head and arms in MMA. You just get your back taken. Why don't you? But she throws it constantly, and she seems to keep hitting it and not getting her back taken. I don't know how she does it. She hit it on Caitlin Chukagian like 4 times and didn't get her back taken. I don't get it. But she's more of a judo girl, but she will shoot an occasional single or double. So her wrestling's okay. Her striking is female Tim Elliott. Like, it's this herky jerky, no one can duplicate it. She bounces, but she sways. She's just never in the same rhythm. It's very weird. It's very Tim Elliott-esque. So I can't call it good or bad. It is Amanda. It's her own. So hard to duplicate. Her cardio's good though. It checks out. She used to fight at 115, though. I guess she had some troubles making that weight, and it was messing with her durability because she was chinny. We had, I don't think Caitlin Chukagian rocked her, but Verna Jandaroba dropped her in the first round. We had Marina Rodriguez put her lights out. We had Paige Van Sant do nothing. I can't remember if Marcos dropped her. I think Mackenzie Dern dropped her, too. She gets dropped all the fucking time. She got knocked out by Polyana Viana. Like, all of her losses are by knockout aside of that split decision loss. But those knockout losses are at 115. Is that 10 pounds a reason she's chinny? She was cutting too much weight? I don't know. I still think she's a little chinny, especially if she fights a bigger girl with some power. I think we could see that chin creep up. And that's exactly what she's fighting here. She's fighting Macy Barber, who is a good striker and has a ton of power. Most of her wins are by knockout. She has good cardio. 47% takedown defense is what concerns me. It's not very good there. Her wrestling's all right. Her takedown defense is getting better. She went from Rufus Sport to Team Alpha Male, and you saw an improvement in her takedown defense, but it's still 47%. She's only 25 years old, so again, she's in that age where they're going to keep getting better and better. Her bread and butter is her striking, though. Very, very, very good striking, and very, very powerful for this weight class. She loves to pressure forward, which might confuse Hebos a little bit, but she can be controlled on the ground. Not a fan of that at all. So in all honesty, Hebos minus 200 makes sense. She should be the favorite. She should win this fight. I think she should take her down and dominate her and maybe even submit her. So I don't hate the under 2.5 being plus money. I think the under 2.5 and plus 175 is a good bet, especially because I'm going to pick Macy Barber to win. I think Amanda Hebos is the better fighter, but just like the Trevor Peak fight, styles make fights. Barber loves to pressure forward, and Hebos, I think she's going to get caught. I think she's going to go out. She's going to dominate round 1 with wrestling. Macy Barber gets controlled down there. She's going to do everything she can to stay safe. They're going to yell at her in the corner, say, go forward, don't get taken down, knock her head off. And Macy's going to go out there mad and catch her in round 2. So not only am I calling Barber by KO, I'm calling Barber round 2 at plus 1,100. And so the pick is going to be Hebos. She's the better fighter. She should win this fight. But I'm going to take Barber at the odds, baby. I think she's going to catch her. So pick Hebos, bet Barber. And I am so sorry. I skipped the fight along the way. We had Austin Lane against Justin Tafa. I don't know where the lines went for this for whatever reason, but I can tell you that the under 1.5 is absolutely juiced. I can also tell you that, oh, here we go. We have Justin Tafa as a minus 170 favorite going up against Austin Lane at plus 145. Yeah, over 1.5 is plus 175, under 1.5 is minus 215. Let's just jump to it real quick. Justin Tafa is a really, really good striker. He has decently high volume. Cardio, he definitely slows down, but we saw in the fight against Carlos Felipe that he'll continually throw. I know he lost that fight in a split. I thought he won. I thought it was a screw job. But his wins are a little questionable. Harry Hunsucker is ass. Parker Porter's ass. Juan Adams ass. His loss to Jorgen De Castro did not age well, especially by KO. And then these other two guys he fought in the regional scene, I have no idea who they are. So he has 0 good wins on his record. He's just a power puncher with good striking. That's about it. No one's really tried to take him down either. So we have no idea about his wrestling. On the flip side, Austin Lane will try to take you down occasionally with just like a blast double. He's a former NFL player. He's the one that went out there and fought Greg Hardy and got KO'd. So that's not a good look because Greg Hardy is not the greatest. He got a second shot on the Contender Series and he got a KO himself, but that's all of his wins. All of his wins are by KO. Jiu-Jitsu, not very good. He's chinny himself. Most of his losses are by KO. He's never seen a decision. Actually, all of his losses are by KO. So he's either knocked you out or been knocked out. So he's pretty kill or be killed. His cardio is a little questionable. He will have a 6-inch reach advantage here. Tafa's the better technical striker. But Austin's just going to go out there and just wing them. And anyone can catch anyone. They've both been knocked out in the past. That's why the under is the way it is. The pick, I'll pick Tafa. Give me the technique. The bet, I think Lane has more ways to win. But I've picked a lot of dogs thus far, so I'll just stick with Tafa here. So the pick is I don't like betting against Australians. So the pick is going to be Tafa. The bet's going to be Tafa, unless you're Jamie Malarkey. I'll bet against Jamie Malarkey all day. He's always a favorite that he shouldn't be. All right, main event time, and if you haven't yet, I don't know what you're doing. Make sure you hit this like button. Please smash the subscribe. Give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's the Stats and Stacks podcast, but there's also a main event here to discuss. Josh Emmett plus 280 going up against Ilya Topuria minus 340. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 180. Under 2.5 at minus 220. Let's start with Topuria. He's someone I pegged as a really, really good fighter on his debut. I literally bet Yusuf Zalal and said, you know what? I don't like this. I'm on the wrong side. We need to hedge out. He did the hands behind his back like Jorge when Jorge was like the next big thing, and I called him mini Jorge for the first like year of his career in the UFC. But I knew right away, no, I'm on the wrong side with Zalal, and sure enough, I was. Topuria, good striker, loves to move forward, has a ton of power. Really good wrestling, very good wrestling, and very, very good jiu-jitsu. 92% takedown defense, so he's really hard to get down. He's one of these short, stocky tanks. You can't just shoot doubles and singles on him. It's not going to work. He's slowed in the past, and he has shown a propensity to get hit. And is he chitty? I don't know. I think that head kick from Jai Herbert would have hurt anyone. So people talk about how he got cracked and Bryce Mitchell cracked him. He did, but he ate it. It's not like he was dancing around the octagon or anything. So you can't hit this guy, and he will show that you hit him. But it's not as if he just like falls over and is doing the stanky leg. Like he's fine. I wouldn't worry too much about his chin. But you should. Because he's fighting Josh Emmett. That's probably the only way Josh Emmett wins this fight, to be honest with you. But he's 26, and he's at that point where, again, that age, you're just going to see them get better out of nowhere. On the flip side, we have an old man in Josh Emmett. I know I'm not betting old men anymore. Am I going to fade this one? I don't know. They might just screw me over in general with Josh Emmett. He's done it before. I had a lot of money on Calvin Kattar that fight, and that was a questionable win for Josh Emmett. Emmett has pretty good striking, but a ton of power. One of the hardest hitters in the weight class. He has good wrestling. He's a D1 wrestling pedigree, but never, ever uses it. He refuses to wrestle. He's gotten like 2 takedowns his last 6 fights or so. Just like I said about Dolby last week, who went out there and did some cage control and got a takedown. Emmett also doesn't wrestle, so let's see if he proves me wrong this week as well. But yeah, he predominantly just tries to knock you out. That's all he does is throw wild hooks and pieces you up. Yair was ready for it and absolutely dismantled him, and he lost his title fight. And now he's coming back against a 26-year-old killer. Where is his headspace at? I have no idea. This is jiu-jitsu any good? Fuck no, it's terrible. Has he gone out there and he was in a close fight against Danny Ige. Danny Ige could have gotten the nod. I kind of give it to Josh Emmett. That Calvin Kattar fight, I thought that Kattar won. That fight against Michael Johnson was whooping his ass until he caught him with an overhand right in the third. Like he just caught him. He has a ton of power. He carries it for all 5 rounds. But I never trust these wrestlers who only strike. Fuck that. Give me Taporia. He's more well-rounded. He's a younger fighter. He's the better fighter. He just can't get caught. He gets touched a lot. I could see him going out, but I can't bet against it. I'm going to pick Taporia. I'm going to bet Taporia, but I'm going to have Taporia in every single one of my parlays with these odds. And if that parlay's still alive at the end, I'm betting Josh Emmett and I'm hedging. Plus 280, Josh Emmett is the perfect hedge. So pick is Taporia, bet is Taporia. Make sure you hedge with Josh Emmett. And that is UFC ABC 5, Taporia versus Emmett. It's going to be a very, very fun card. Not a lot of big names, but a lot of finishes. It's a crowd, so it's going to be real lively. It's on early. Don't forget it's on super early at like noon. And the main, I forgot if the card or the main card starts at 3, but it's a real early fight card. So be ready for that. Grab your beers, get all your chores done early, sit down, have some fun, enjoy the fights, baby. It's going to be one hell of a night. Let's get it.